Good evening. Welcome to Living Arts. I'm your host, Jackie Suarez. Thank you for tuning in. Tonight we're going to be speaking to the Kazzrie Jaxen Quartet, and we have from that group Kazzrie Jaxen, and we also have John Ford of Ford Piano, who's going to be starting a new program at his factory. It's called Jazz at the Factory at his piano factory. So, gentlemen, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Jackie.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
It's great to have you here. I'm really excited about it. Well, first, we want to just talk a little bit about your career. You've been in the business so long. Why don't you give us a little background on how you got started in music?
I guess I started playing around when I was 10 years old.
Mm-hmm.
I went to a high school. They have, like, at the end of the year, they have everybody performs in the high school. I heard this guy playing alto sax.
Mm-hmm.
And the next day I told my mother I want to play saxophone.
Mm-hmm.
And so they bought me a saxophone and started taking lessons and just never stopped.
Mm-hmm.
So I played all through grade school, high school.
What type of music was popular at that time?
Back in those days, I was actually, my dad was a musician.
Mm-hmm.
So I was listening to jazz.
Mm-hmm.
I was listening to Benny Goodman,
Mm-hmm.
Lester Young. So I guess I had that from the very beginning. And then later on, after I got out of the Navy, started playing in rock groups, and top 40 groups.
So you didn't really just go straight into jazz, so you had a little
I
foray
did.
into other kinds of music.
I had it early in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And then after I got to be in my 20s, I just had a working rock band, top 40 band, weddings, parties, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And at some point, that was a lot of fun, but you were judged whether you were good or not based on how close you could come to the recording that was out on the top 40 charts.
Right, when you were doing a cover song or something.
Yeah. So you're trying to imitate and after a while there was some emptiness. It wasn't very fulfilling.
Right.
And at just about that point, I went to a concert and I heard this saxophonist that just changed my life. And I went backstage and met him and started studying jazz improvisation with him. So I already knew how to play the horn, but as far as...
And who was this?
The person's name was Lenny Popkin.
Mm-hmm.
I studied with him for like 2.5 years, and then he stopped teaching. And I switched over to Connie Crothers, a female jazz pianist, one of the great ones.
Mm-hmm.
And I studied with her for 15 years.
So what made you, I guess you always kind of liked jazz.
Yeah.
What was it that really propelled you into playing jazz? Just the performance that you'd seen that one night? Or what was changing
No, I guess
about
it was,
your interest in music?
I can't really pinpoint. I've always had a great feeling for jazz. I've always, as far back as I can remember, I loved it. I loved listening to it. Maybe it was... I didn't think I could play it, but sometimes in the weddings we would throw in kind of a blues tune and we would get into it a little bit. But I felt, I needed to be taught really how to improvise.
Right, so explain a little bit more about the improvisational jazz.
Yeah, improvisation. This is what we live for. This is taking a tune.
Mm-hmm.
And making it our own, playing it, improvising on the melody so that the audience...
So you're just kind of playing off of one another?
Well, we're all listening to each other in this quartet, yeah. We've actually, every member of the quartet, the story is the same. We all started when we were kids.
Mm-hmm.
And we all came to jazz in some way. When I was studying with Lenny Popkin, I met Kazzrie Jaxen, who at that time was already an accomplished jazz pianist. Mm-hmm. And she and I started doing sessions together.
Okay.
And so I had my weekly lesson, and then weekly session with Kazzrie. And gradually over a 10-year period, I got to be able to improvise. A passion, a love for it. And I think that's the success we've had as a quartet. That's has come out, and we connect with audiences, and we actually, the audience is a part of our performance.
Mm-hmm. So how do you start one of your gigs? Because I guess you wouldn't have various tunes that you're already going to play, or you just kind of go in there and get a feeling for it?
Yeah,
that's amazing.
We have a list of tunes, of course, that we
You've
have
practiced.
And so.
Would they be the jazz standards, so to speak?
Most of them are the American Songbook. Yeah.
Okay.
And so we'll just go in and maybe talk to some of the people there and get a sense of their vibe
and what they want to hear.
Yeah, and
so how long has the group been playing together?
As a group we've been playing together for about 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
Kazzrie and myself have been playing together since the early 80s, and Don and Bill as a rhythm section have been playing together probably for about 30 years.
Okay, so you both were separately
playing, and then about 5 years ago we decided to get together just to have some fun and play. So we all went up to Kazzrie's house up in Callicoon, because she has her piano.
Okay.
And we just had a ball. And we said, we got to do this. And so we did it the following week.
Mm-hmm.
And we just gradually were having so much fun with it. I think Don, the bass player, had some contacts and got us a gig. And that was the beginning of
the four of you playing together.
Yeah.
So I guess, when you started playing some gigs throughout the city or in various places?
Well, yeah, if we could go back a little bit, when I was studying, first I started with Lenny Popkin. He told me, you can't be playing any weddings on the weekend if you're going to study jazz. If you really want to develop a jazz feeling,
mm-hmm.
you just can't be playing weddings, top 40 on the weekends. I was making, at that time, probably making $500 on a weekend playing weddings.
Oh, nice.
And I stopped. And then for 10 years, I left Lenny and went with Connie, and for 10 years, I didn't play any gigs. And then in 1989, Kazzrie and myself played a duet gig at a place in the Village called the Greenwich House Music School. Mm-hmm. And we recorded it and we put it out on a CD, and it got some good reviews.
Yeah.
So with a good review in hand, I waltzed into the Blue Note and said, guess what?
Here we are.
Yeah.
We've arrived.
Talked myself in. We had a gig at the Blue Note.
Mm-hmm.
And talk about luck. The night of the gig, it was a Monday night,
mm-hmm.
a Japanese tour bus pulls up and 100 people get out of the bus.
To come to the Blue Note. Yeah. That was lucky.
Yeah.
It must have looked like you were crazy popular.
The manager knocked on the dressing room. We were going to go on in 5 minutes, and he said, "Look, the club is filled up. It's 200 people, and I have a line going down the sidewalk, and this has never happened on a Monday night." So, of course, we were nervous before he said that.
Oh, okay.
But anyway, that's just a little asides, you know. Yeah, we just started gigging.
So, you're also an instructor locally. So why don't you tell our audience a little bit about that?
Well, I was fortunate enough to be asked by Lou Ubriaco of U Music if I would consider teaching, some of his students. He had some inquiries about saxophone. Mm-hmm. And I did. I have a couple of students. They're young beginners, mm-hmm. and I'm loving it. And I'm having a lot of fun teaching. And just to see a 10, 11-year-old child start to play, it's exciting.
So where does the band stand now as far as recordings? Are you doing any more recording sessions?
The Quaternity CD, which we just put out on our own, we put it out. We had recorded certain gigs that we were on. Like we did a concert up in Beacon at a place mm-hmm. called the Howland Center, and we videoed it and we recorded it. Mm-hmm. We also did a concert over in Pennsylvania at a place called the Cooperage. Nice, beautiful place. We recorded and videoed that.
Are there any plans to record a CD or an EP?
Well, nothing definite, concrete mm-hmm. at the moment. We plan to, we did, I think, 16 concerts last year.
Oh, wow, that's a lot.
Yeah, and so we're starting out this year at John's, and we plan to, hopefully, to increase that and make some money.
Of course. Wouldn't we all like that? So how did the two of you know one another?
Yeah.
Well, I actually knew Charlie's father,
yeah.
believe it or not, because he was in the last part of his life, he was a piano technician.
Oh, really?
And of course, that's what I do.
Okay.
So I knew Charlie's father for actually a couple of decades. Mm-hmm. And then one day he says, you would really like my son. Mm-hmm. And then, so finally, I called Charlie for a gig when I was booking, way back in 2000, I think it was, when I was booking the music on the street to pretty much start the music in Peekskill off.
Okay.
In 99 and 2000. And so I said, well, let me give this kid a call. And so I called him. And we just became friends. The old man was right. We do get along well, and we've just become friends ever since that time. And so.
So had you gone to see him, I guess, and the Quartet
on
several occasions?
Several.
What's that experience like?
Well, this is why I'm doing this, because I'm offering jazz at the factory. I'm offering groups that you maybe wouldn't necessarily see anywhere else. I mean, mm-hmm. That are really, I think, special. I've done this in the past, about mm-hmm. 10 years ago at the factory.
Okay.
And I'm starting it up again. Charlie's group with Kazzrie Jaxen is unique, and they're all unique players. Charlie, I think he takes a Prez pill every day.
Yes.
He sounds
Review.
like a guy named Prez.
Yeah.
Who would that be?
Lester Young.
Lester Young.
Oh, okay.
He's a cross between Lester Young and Warren Marsh. This man can play. He's very unassuming, and by his conversation, you would think he's a beginner, but he can really play. And the tone that he gets, it just, you know how sometimes there's a tone that emits from a saxophone that it just kind of just melts you? Well,
Yeah.
that's the tone that this man gets out of that horn. And Kazzrie is a totally unique piano player. She does these things when she's taking a break, or a solo. She will start at the top and do these things, and when you think she's kind of descending on the piano, and when you think she should be done, she continues.
Okay.
It's just so interesting.
She is amazing.
She's
amazing
unique.
pianist.
She's very unique. She has her own style. She's unique, and they've rehearsed at the shop a couple of times, and I've heard them a couple of times. They have the ability to basically what jazz means, taking a tune, and, as Charlie said before, and improvising on that melody or those chord changes. They have the ability to do that, and there's such a thing in the music world as going out. In other words, when someone's playing and they're going out, it means that they're sort of leaving the realm of accepted music. They're just going into the stratosphere.
Transcendent.
Right. Well, they have this ability to do that, but on the way in and on the way out, on the way back in, on the way out and the way back in from being out there, there's a few moments where it is sheer genius what they're doing, and it totally turns me on, and that's why I'm having them, because I have such a high opinion of their musicality, and I love to listen to them.
If we do our job right, it becomes an artistic experience for the audience,
Okay.
and they're left with a good feeling that they really enjoyed the night.
Well, that's always good.
Yeah.
That's always good.
Yeah.
So now, just explain to the audience in a little more detail what Jazz at the Factory, what's going to be happening there now.
Well, in the past, I've had some interesting things happen at the factory there. We have had two piano players come and play at one time, and the same, two different pianos, but playing at the same time.
Okay.
And it was totally interesting.
Kind of dueling.
In a way. It was very interesting because when you're a piano player, a professional, and you go to a gig, there's the horn player, there's the bass player, there's the drummer, you're the piano player. You know where you're supposed to be. You're the piano player. You know. But when you go to a gig and there's another piano player there, you don't know where you're supposed to be.
Right.
So my only requirement for the fellows when they came, and ladies, was no rehearsal. So they would play the first tune. It was kind of like, oh yeah, we'll take that. Oh yeah, oh. So the first couple of tunes, they weren't really sure what to do, and they were feeling each other out, so to speak.
Right.
But then after that, they realized, well, if somebody's playing over here, then I must play. If the other guy's playing there, I'm going to play here. And then they listened harder, and everyone else in the audience needed to listen harder too. And it was for a couple of minutes, it was the true essence of jazz, because they were really, really improvising, and that's the feeling I get from the Kazzrie Jaxen Quartet, is the true essence of jazz. And it's funny, my friend who used to play with a bass player, he said, at those moments when you're playing, you stop the aging process. In other words, you don't age those few moments when you're in that zone where you're just kind of in a netherworld of music, and you don't know if you're playing, what chord you're in, or what tune you're in, but you're just having a great time. So Charlie and Kazzrie and company are able to do that. So I've always been about the music. So I have the capability now to offer a couple of jazz acts in my little space. So that's what I'm doing, and Charlie is going to be, leading it off.
But you've actually done this before.
I have.
In the past. So
Yes.
it was you just kind of revived it again.
Correct.
It's a great name for it, Jazz at the Factory.
Yeah.
I just want to say that the other members of the quartet, Don Messina on bass, tremendous bass player, and Bill Chatton on drums, we all listen to each other, and we all, I think, make each other better in some way.
Of course.
And
And you work really, really hard at it too.
yeah,
Which is, I'm sure, a big part of it. You
Yeah.
put your heart and soul into it.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, the rhythm section is totally smoking.
Wow.
Those guys are really, really good. And they seem to blend well together.
Yeah. So what do you have? Now, this particular performance is going to be on January 24th.
Correct.
What time does that start?
8 p.m.
Now, it's at the Ford Piano in downtown Peekskill.
Correct.
You can call and make a reservation.
You can call and make a reservation if you wish.
Okay.
You know, it's fine. You can call Ford Piano.
Now, I know that you want to keep doing this, seasonally, or have somebody else come. So who do you have maybe in store for us next time?
Well, I particularly like the 2-piano arrangement.
Okay.
And then the last time I had a couple of guys come, and I think they were really good. One guy's named Mike Longo. He played with Dizzy for 10 years, Dizzy Gillespie.
Mike Longo. That sounds really familiar.
He's a local guy.
Okay.
Another guy is Andy Laverne, who's a very well-known arranger and a writer of books.
Are you kidding me? I know him.
Okay. and together they did a great job.
Andy's really good. That's so
He's good.
interesting.
Yeah. I might have those guys come back. I haven't spoken to them yet, so I don't have a date or anything, but I'm sure they would be amenable if they're around and not touring to come.
Talk about a small world. I've known Andy for quite some time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, he could play. He could
Really?
play.
Oh, I know that he's always given lessons,
Yes,
but I didn't know that he performed.
he
Yeah.
does, and he's a great arranger, and he has books out, and he's a very accomplished guy. And so, I mean, that's just, I haven't called him yet, so I don't have a date. And I don't really...
We don't want to put anybody on the spot.
I don't have a date yet, but that's the caliber that I'm looking to get. I mean, guys who can really, really play, and acts that you wouldn't see around this town much,
Right.
but things really unusual and really, really good jazz acts.
So how do you come upon bands like this, or is it through word of mouth? Do you go out much,
Well,
or you just happen to come across them in your day-to-day life?
I know a lot of people. I mean, in my business, I have the piano rebuilding business, and my whole life has really been concerned with musicians.
And
I play
you
a
do
little
play.
bit.
I was just going to say, John plays
I
piano.
play a little bit, but
I've heard him
all my
play.
friends and all my business associates, everyone's a musician. So I
Okay.
just kind of I'm in that. So now that I have this big space, and we cleared off a whole portion of it, and I bought a bunch of chairs. So
Okay.
we're going to have a devoted spot. It was something I didn't have when I did it last time.
Okay.
Everyone was sitting on piano benches, and they're not very comfortable because you can't lean back. There's no
Right,
lift for your
exactly.
arms. So now I bought a whole bunch of chairs with backs and arms.
Okay.
And we're going to have a devoted recital hall space.
That sounds
And
lovely.
I might say that maybe we could also do some classical piano.
That would be wonderful.
Yeah.
I'm sure you know Daisy Joplin.
Yes.
I love the way that she plays. She's played around town quite a bit. But it's always nice when you get to come across a band like yourself, with the Quartet. And that's one of the reasons I love doing this show. It's always nice to just get hip to something new, to hear something new, have the pleasure of, seeing you perform live and, see what the future holds for this, the space as well.
Absolutely.
You can always keep your eyes open for things, certainly people can, contact you directly if they want to perform in the space.
Well, sure. Absolutely.
What would you prefer to find them?
No, it's fine. I mean, but I'm kind of a picky guy when it comes to that stuff. But may I also say something that
Sure.
I think, and I'm sure I speak for a lot of musicians and artists who have been on the show, that I think that you're doing a tremendous job with this.
Yeah.
And to be able to take artists and give them exposure and put them on the television and expand the art in town here. So thank you very much for that, Jackie.
You're very welcome. It's been my pleasure. And, it's always, like I said, exciting. I get a huge kick out of this, and I love hearing about new bands. And I'm so looking forward to seeing you guys perform. So where can people find out information about the Quartet? And this would be the Kazzrie Jaxen Quartet.
Yeah, that's the website. It's that would be the place. I guess.
So it's just www.kazzriejaxen.
Quartet.com.
Okay, terrific. And you also have some way that they contact you about giving lessons as well, right?
Yeah, they can reach me through the website. Yeah, unionmusic.com, I believe it is. Yeah.
That is terrific. So, we're going to say this once again. It's happening, or all happening, on January 24th at 8 p.m. It is called Jazz at the Factory. Is there anything else, I guess, a way for them to reach you as well in regard to performances at the factory?
Yes, we will be having other shows at the factory. I don't have anything lined up at the moment, but
What's your, I guess, for the music side of the business, how can you be reached?
you can just call me at the piano store. You know, it's 739-1224.
Okay.
And-
All right, terrific.
Yeah.
Well, listen, it's been a great pleasure speaking to both of you. I'm, really glad we had a chance to get to know each other a little bit better. It was great meeting you.
Thank you.
And I'm looking forward to seeing you perform. And thank you for the CD as well. John, always a pleasure.
Thank you
Looking
very
forward
much,
to seeing
Jackie.
you on the
It's my
24th. And to the Living Arts audience, I want to thank you for tuning in. I, strongly encourage you to go out and see the band and see the quartet. We will be back soon. As always, peace.